That's a lot of hard work, and it always goes underappreciated, if you know what I mean. I just appreciate the fact that you've stepped up to do the hard work, the grassroots work to make a difference for the next Republican candidate for president to carry Hillsborough County, because I think it can happen. Speaker Weatherford is just a superstar. I so admire his leadership skills, his commitment to everybody. Thank you for that kind introduction. To all the elected officials here, I appreciate you. Some of you guys are older than dirt. I mean, you guys have been around. I'm not talking about you, Mark, but we go way back together. Let's just leave it at that. And it is a joy to be here. Governor Martinez, you're an inspiration to us in so many ways, and it was one of the great joys of my life to work with you. You're a public servant par excellence. You're one of the greatest Floridians of all time. And Mary Jane, we love you too. I wish that there were two great Tampa Bay area leaders, two great people from this wonderful community that were here to see me as a candidate for president. Al Austin and Margie Kincaid. I wish they were all here. Beverly's here, and Beverly, we miss Al, and the Kincaids were such stalwart supporters of the Republican cause long before we had gained control of the Republican Party. It was a lot harder back then when we were in the minority across the board, and so for those that have been involved from the very beginning of this movement to make Florida a conservative state where people can rise up again, I applaud all of you because you make a huge difference. I appreciate the fact that Will mentioned what happened in Charleston. I was, in fact, going from Iowa to Charleston on a couple of days ago, and we got there at 11 o'clock at night, and the downtown area was cordoned off. In fact, our hotel was a block away from this Bethel AME church, and we couldn't get in, and then I thought it was appropriate not to participate in the events the next day. But our hearts go out to the 9 families that are suffering today. They're brothers and sisters in Christ. They were there on a Wednesday prayer meeting, and it just breaks my heart that someone, a racist, would do what he did. It just breaks my heart. I know it breaks your heart as well. And we need to find ways to bring love back into our society where people, if they have these problems, there's got to be a better way to deal with it than this. Our country will be torn apart unless we come together, both acting on our faith and across the board. We need to come together. There's too many divides in this country, and people in public life need to make every effort possible to bring us together. And that's my intention if I'm elected president of the United States. You may have heard, apart from the Fallon deal, you may have heard that on Monday I announced something that I'm pretty excited about. I'm a candidate for President of the United States. We had a fantastic crowd from all across the country, but particularly Florida. And today, I'd like to announce that we're going to have a campaign headquarters, a state campaign headquarters for Florida, and it's going to be in Tampa. Because this is Floridians know what it was like when we all worked together. When I was governor, we worked in partnership. The business community, the faith community, civic associations, the legislature, we all worked together to fix some things that allowed our state was languishing at the time, and we fixed a few big things to give people a chance to rise up. And I believe that kind of leadership will be important. I know that we can fix the problems in Washington, D.C., because we did it together here. The fact is, too many people in this country now think that America can't change, that somehow we're doomed to decline. I reject that, and I hope you do as well. If we fix a few big, complex things, this is the most extraordinary time to be alive in this world. I believe it, and I hope you believe it as well. But it's going to require leadership. For the last 6 years, we've had a president who's been a great talker. Wow, he can talk. I've seen him give speeches. He's eloquent. He is gifted in that regard. And he had a unique background that was the marvel of many people. I, too, admired the American dream being evidenced by a unique person, Barack Obama. But he's not a leader, and he's a left-wing ideologue, and he's created bigger divides, and he has made it harder for people to rise up. 5 million more people are in poverty today than when Barack Obama became president. 5 million more people. The middle is suffering. This is the first time in a recovery. Now we're close to the 6th year of recovery, and people's income is lower today than it was at the start of the recovery. We have huge problems in this country. Workforce participation rates are lower than they were in 1980. People don't believe their children will have more opportunities than what they had. First time in American history. We've lost the great part of being in America. We've lost our sense of optimism. To restore that, it is going to require not just talking, not just saying I'm going to do things that are not even possible to do. It's going to require someone who has leadership skills. And I believe that I am that man. To remind you, when I got elected governor, I had an agenda. I said what I was going to do when I was a candidate. I went to visit 250 schools. I said that I would cut taxes. I said that we would lower crime rates. I said that we would make a commitment to sustain our commitment to conservation. And we began the process of doing all those things. And the end result was, in 8 years, we cut taxes $19 billion. We reduced the government workforce by 13,000, 11% fewer workers in Tallahassee. But we created an environment where over 1.3 million new jobs were created during my 8 years. More than any state in the country, more than Texas. Don't tell Rick Perry or my brother I'm not competitive or anything. The only state that created more jobs was California, a state of close to 3 times our size. We created reserves up to $9 billion during my time. They called me, sorry members of the legislature, they called me Vito Corleone. You may remember this. Some of you may have been upset about the vetoes that I did. 2,500 separate line items vetoed so that we could bring budget discipline, so that personal income growth in this state would grow faster than government. That is a worthy objective, and the net result was that this state prospered. We were one of 2 states that went from AA to AAA status compared to the sorry state of affairs in Washington, D.C., this incredible country that had a credit downgrade because of the rising debt levels that exist in Washington. And the net result of all of this is the state is better off. And thankfully, because of conservatives in the Florida legislature, led by guys like Will Weatherford and others, we continue the progress. Let me tell you why it's important. Because the world we're moving towards is incredibly competitive. If you travel the world like I've had over the last 6 years, you see the changes at warp speed around the world. People are trying to figure out ways to outcompete this great country of ours. And we're languishing with a Washington that tries to overtax and overregulate and create serious problems for our ability to rise up. What Florida did has now become a model, something I'm quite proud of. We reformed our education system, and more children now have a chance to be able to gain the power of knowledge, to go to college, or to be career ready. You should be proud of the reforms of Florida because they are nation leading. Statewide voucher program, the second statewide voucher program, a universal pre-K program that's a voucher program, the largest virtual school, expanding charter schools. All of this has created a simple fact, which is in Florida, parents have more choices than any state in the United States, and you should be proud of that. Higher standards, more accountability, a focus on trying to customize the experience of learning. And guess what the result was? Florida was we were 50 out of 50 states in 1998 in our graduation rate. 50% of kids were graduating from high school. Think of the shattered dreams that exist when you have that kind of situation. And we replaced that with a system where we had continuous improvement, starting in the early grades, but now we're beginning to see improvement across the board. Florida was 29th out of 31 states on the so-called Nations Report Card with 4th grade reading in 1998. 29th out of 31. I won't tell you who was 30 and 31, but you can imagine who they were. And in 10 years' time, thanks to the work of the Florida legislature and great teachers and people that embrace the reform, we went from 29th out of 31 to 6th out of 50 in the United States of America. Low-income students in Florida lead the nation. Kids with learning disabilities lead the nation. African American kids do better than the average of 6 states. Hispanic kids do equal to or better than more than 30 states on that test. The point is, with leadership, you can move the needle. With leadership, you can make it possible for more people to rise up. Tonight with us is Lindsay Morris. Where's Lindsay? Where are you with your children? Are you still here? Well, I'll tell you, there she is. Thank you for being here, Lindsay. Lindsay's had 6 kids going through the Corporate Tax Scholarship Program. She had the choice because of John Kirtley and the Florida legislature and many corporations that have made this the largest corporate tax scholarship program by far. 70,000 kids low-income kids go to private schools because of what we did together. And the net result is her children are graduating. In fact, one of them has graduated from USF and is now a pre-med graduate. Had we not done this, the net result would have been that a lot of Lindsays wouldn't have been able to have the power of choice. They would have been stuck in failing schools. We would have continued to excuse away why some kids couldn't learn. In Florida, Republicans, conservatives, reform-minded people said enough of this nonsense. Every child can learn, and it's up to us to organize ourselves around them and stop excusing away why they don't learn. I'm proud of the Florida experience, and I want to bring that kind of reform-minded nature to Washington, D.C. to turn our country around. The simple fact is, if we fix a few big complex things, this country could grow at 4% again per year over a long distance of time. And if we grew at 4% per year, we wouldn't have 5 million more people in poverty. People would be lifted out of poverty. They would have a chance to be able to live their dreams as they see fit. And the middle would no longer have declining median income. They would have rising disposable income. They'd have a chance to be able to invest in their own dreams, or maybe save for a rainy day, or save for their retirement, or what the heck, maybe even take a vacation that they've not been able to do during these difficult times. An America that is hopeful and optimistic will only happen if America grows at a far faster rate than we're growing today, which means we have to fix the most convoluted tax code in the world. It means we have to fix this amazing regulatory morass that exists today in Washington that makes it harder and harder for the next generation of successful people to even start businesses. Business formation rates, by the way, are lower today than they were 25 years ago. It means embracing our immigrant heritage and fixing a broken immigration system and turning it to a catalyst for high sustained economic growth, where young, dynamic people that can make a contribution come here legally, that we control our border, but that we do it in a way that we begin to grow economically where we all can benefit. It means fixing. It means fixing our entitlement system, having the courage to recognize the obvious. The obvious is, 10 years from now, we're all going to be 10 years older, God willing. Who's with Governor? Are you with me on that one? You'll be here, I know that. 10 years from now, we're all going to be 10 years older, but we're not replacing the next generation. It's smaller. And the net effect is our demographic pyramid's looking like this instead of like this. And the next generation won't be able to receive what they expect. Healthcare or a retirement system that is based on a totally different demographic model. The next president has to have the courage and the guts to tell the American people that we have to fix it. We can start now so that it's not a burden for anybody that is receiving these benefits today. But we've got to have the courage to do this. Barack Obama is in the witness protection program on this stuff, and the net result is no one has done anything in Washington, D.C., and we're languishing If we grow at 4% per year, our spirits will be be lifted and people will be able to live independent lives of purpose and meaning. But the only way we can do that also is to re-engage with the rest of the world. There's no such thing anymore as Fortress America. We can't pull back and expect a good result. We've seen what happens. This president, and by the way, his secretaries of state, are the first administration that believe that America's presence, America's leadership in the world is not a force for good. Think about it. They've pulled back, and the net result is our friends have no clue where we stand. They have no confidence that we have their back. And our enemies no longer fear us. And we see this play out all across the world now. We see China building an island in the middle of the South China Sea to be able to create a military presence to pressure the region. We see Russia moving at will in Eastern Europe and threatening the Baltics. And we see these new asymmetric threats of terror in the Middle East. When we pull back immediately, ISIS is on the run. The net result of this is we're less safe when we pull back rather than safe. The next president of the United States needs to be the president that restores America's presence in the world, America's consistency in the world, America's leadership in the world. And I intend to be that president. Record, when people start talking about the experience of the possible, the probable candidate on the Democratic side, boy, she's really experienced, she's traveled around. What has she done as Secretary of State? I can't think of anything. She can't think of anything better yet. That experience is one of retrenchment. It's a defeatist attitude. It has created an unsafe world. The reset button, that was her idea. The success in Libya, she took credit. You think about the world that we've been left with by her presence as Secretary of State and President Obama's leadership as president, and there's a whole lot of work that the next president is going to have to do. And I know how to do it, and so do you. America needs to be strong and committed. We need to rebuild our military, show support to our veterans, rebuild our counterintelligence capabilities to keep our homeland safe. And if we do this and fix our economy, this will be the greatest time to be alive in America. And I believe it, and I hope you do as well. So here's the deal. I'm day 5 of this journey. This is new to me, I have to admit. You like the suit, by the way? I'm excited about the prospect of this, and I know how a conservative can win. I know how a conservative can win. A conservative will not win by simply being focused on how bad things are. A conservative can win by recognizing the obvious, that things are tough. That's for sure. And explaining that to people, but giving them hope that there's a better chance. A hopeful, optimistic message is what the next Republican conservative candidate has to have. And you have to believe it. You have to offer specific agenda items, policy changes to make it so. The next conservative has to go campaign in places where they haven't seen a Republican in a while, a conservative. We need to go to the black churches and talk about school choice. We need to go campaign in the Latino communities to make sure they know that they're right. To the college campuses. Our message is a winning message. The conservative message has created the greatness of this country. We shouldn't be shy about evangelizing this message and spreading it across the land. My belief is that people that aren't Republican are really possibly Republicans. They just don't know it yet because they haven't been asked. So I hope you'll join me on this journey. I hope that you'll join our cause. I hope that you'll vote for me. I hope that you will work for me. I hope that you're involved in the primary, and if I'm fortunate, which I believe I will be, to be the party's nominee, that you redouble your efforts so that we can carry Florida and take this message all across the country to restore the greatness of this wonderful country. I will not let you down. I will run hard. I will run to win. I will run with energy. And I believe with you all that we can change the course of this country for a better place for our children and grandchildren. That's worth fighting for. I intend to do it. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.